Nick Bland refused and disobey HR business partner to conduct a grievance on the 11th of September 2020. Even though this was granted on the 14th of August 2020, 3 days after my dismissal, which automatically overrides the dismissal and prevent the dismissal if grievance was not heard by the appropriate department who deals with grievances at work, which is HR and HR alone, I had requested, all denied by Miss Bishop, hence Michael Wyatt and Ben Parry grievance meeting acting under false pretense as HR. I then appeals my dismissal with a sympathetic appeal on the 14th of September 2020. Mr. Alex Jones, who negligence can be counted on. Later chased up by Union John Murphy in October. But Mr. Alex Jones only responded to my appeal on the day of the tribunal hearing, the 22nd of February, 2023. 2 years and 5 months respectively. A breach to company policy. Plus Mr. Jones stated Mr. Ronalds drafted the letter, and should have been sent. The ET3 by the respondent clearly states sympathetic appeal will be sent shortly since January 2021. The sympathetic appeal response is invalid and was also not signed, a complete breach of company policy. I was advised by Mr. Nick Bland to take matters up with tribunal with a smirk on his face. So said, so done. I applied to the tribunal in November 2020 and tribunal accepted my application. I filed a ET1 for race discrimination, contractual breach, lost in earnings and unfair dismissal. The respondent files a late ET3 with a fabricated grounds of resistance, but offered an extension due to the pandemic. I challenged the ET3 but was not granted dismissal of case. We then had our first preliminary hearing and the judge pointed out several breach in equal rights and opportunity, along with harassment and human rights under Equality Act 2010. I later withdrew from race discrimination to make case more simple and straightforward. The respondent representative's Miss Hazel Royal was told by tribunal on the 4th of April, 2022 to forward relevant documents to add to the bundle. Miss Royal breached the order by not doing so, which means the bundle presented in tribunal was incomplete and inadmissible. Miss Royal wrote on the 4th of April 2022 that all evidence was being sorted and needed more time. This was not done, a breach to the order. Miss Royal also showed interest in a judicial mediation if I were to be interested. Later asked again by Mrs. Scott Ellis, another representative of the respondent, who also requested a judicial mediation on the 22nd of July 2022, our second hearing, where Mrs. Scott Ellis failed to present a complete bundle, omitting multiple files, as well as breaching the order by withholding exculpatory evidence to assist the case. We discussed early settlement and other interest by the respondent, which we could not agree on a figure. So we left it down to the tribunal decisions in a judicial mediation set date, the 6th of October, 2022, only to later receive an email to the tribunal from Mrs. Scott Ellis that the respondent withdrew from judicial mediation, something they requested. Innocent individual don't request judicial mediation. They stand their grounds, but it was a manipulative event and all went to final hearing, an abuse of process and time-wasting strategies, deliberately misleading the tribunal. A week before the final hearing at tribunal, I received a provocative letter from another representative by the respondent, Mrs. Mosley-Ford, who defamed my name by stating, I was writing, while driving 25 miles per hour proceeding through a red traffic light signal with a bus full of passengers. This allegation is a false statement, with Mrs. Scott Ellis, another representative, accepting the false accusation. This evidence was not presented in tribunal to make such claim. A defamation of character by the respondent representatives. Hearsay cannot be used in tribunal, but by evidential support which the respondent representatives failed to present in tribunal. CCTV footage of the alleged incident on the 13th of March 2020 was not aired in tribunal, which would make any comment regards any event on the 13th of March 2020 false. So it's impossible for journalists and reporters to have such information that was not viewed in tribunal, but only by the judge and the respondent representatives. How can I defend myself against something that was not aired in tribunal, and for attendance the allegations are also false? I do not have attendance issues. The tribunal was misled by falsified documents. On the final hearing date, the 22nd of February 2023, I received the bundle the very morning, to find out the witness stand has been dissolved to 3 and not the 6 mentioned since our first hearing. I outlined the facts, but still was rejected by the tribunal, hence the decisions made by the tribunal benefited the